Okay, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Alexey Laureshin. I am located at Lund University in Sweden, and I would like to welcome you to this very first webinar under AfroSAFE Academy. Since it's the very first time we are meeting, I would like to tell you some words, what it is all about, what AfroSAFE Academy is. So I have prepared a couple of slides, and after that we will listen to Henk Stipdonk, our speaker of the day, but I will come to that. So what is AfroSAFE Academy? Our vision for this organization, it's kind of spider network connecting researchers, practitioners, policymakers working with traffic safety problems and focusing mostly on the African region. The project or this network, this kind of activity stems from a relatively large research project called AfroSAFE, which is funded by the European Union, and I am actually the formal coordinator of this project. The idea of the project is to deal with traffic safety issues in African countries. We have Ghana, Tanzania, and Zambia as partners. But one of the activity, and as for me, the most important one, is actually to push the development of the local experts in Africa, because I mean we can come with our advices from Europe, we can come with our examples, but it will never fly unless there is a critical mass of educated, understanding people in Africa who understand how to deal with traffic safety. And the idea of this AfroSAFE Academy is just to serve that. We want to support you in networking, in exchanging knowledge, in exchanging experiences. Hopefully this network will actually outlive the project itself and will continue as some kind of association or meeting place. So we still have some years to decide how exactly that would be organized or formalized. But so far, the interest has been quite big, and I really see a big future for this. As you can see, the AfroSAFE Academy is actually under the webpage of the ICTCT. ICTCT is an international association of traffic safety researchers. It has been around for more than 40 years. And that was kind of our idea, that by partnering with an organization that has already well established, that have the routines, the infrastructure, that knows well how it works to manage a network of people which are like spread all over the world. It will help also to maintain sustainability of the AfroSAFE Academy. So we made a deal, an agreement that we join ICTCT as a kind of subcommittee with the goal, with the same goals, to promote research and communication of research on traffic safety in Africa. I can also tell you that we have had quite some opportunities to discuss with local African people what are the needs, what should be the goals of these organizations. There has been several workshops when we really discussed what should be the activities and priority areas. And basically, that's the list which came out of those workshops. So we want to promote networking. We really want to give a platform for people working with traffic safety to meet, to discuss, kind of present what you are doing, to hear what other people are doing, kind of to break that first barrier of making the first contact. Once you've met, once you've talked, next time it's much easier to just shoot a mail and ask a question. Yes, I remember you had a project on that. Well, can you tell us more, because we're planning to implement something similar in our country. We plan organizing scientific event, and there is already a conference planned in Tanzania in the next year. I will come back to that with more details. We want to help with scientific publications, like information how to publish, maybe some kind of workshops on how to write a papers that had a better chance for getting published, and also how to find the right relevant information, because the flow of research papers is enormous, but actually finding a relevant ones, useful ones, it's not that easy. We want to collect and share information about funding opportunities. I know it is a problem in many African countries for researchers to find research money, but actually there are some options, both local fundings and aid organizations. So like we want to keep an updated list of what calls are available, what organizations are on, well, not on the market, but which names you should remember and where you can check for funding opportunities. We want to promote education in traffic safety, so we actively developing now a curriculum for a course in traffic safety, and the course on university level. So it's really like high level with quite many details. And we are cooperating now with several universities, University of Zambia, University of Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, and also University of Education in Ghana. So this course will be kind of tested with real students, real teachers, and then we want to share all the materials, the curriculum, the slides, the reading materials, so that anyone interested to implement a similar course at your university or institute, there would be quite much that you can borrow directly. And finally, empowering researchers. We want to kind of to facilitate talks between researchers and policymakers, and really kind of help you to get your voice heard, because actually you are the future. You are the people who have the knowledge. You should be the advisors, and then it's really important that policymakers who have the power to make changes, they listen to you. The steering committee of the AfroSAFE Academy, it's a very nice mixture of European and African researchers, or researchers outside Africa, but with some African roots. All of them are high-level, well-merited researchers. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to collaborations with all of these people. And as I mentioned, there are already quite some activities in the pipeline. So there are several webinars planned. There is an invitation for the webinar in December, but we already scheduled webinars until end of the next spring. Like they're not published yet, but the first contact with the speakers is made. And also the conference in Dar es Salaam in June next year is already scheduled. So please check. The call for submissions will be opened relatively soon. And here you can find additional information. So ictct.net/AfroSafe, that's the homepage of the AfroSAFE Academy. But you can also learn more about the AfroSAFE project itself at afrosafeau.africa. And also you can reach us by contact@afrosafeau.africa. I just realized preparing this presentation that not all of the communication channel are well represented, well located where they should be, but we do have also a LinkedIn channel and a Twitter channel. So I will put some more efforts to make them visible. But please follow us, subscribe to our newsletters, because lots of interesting activities are on the way. And now we are moving to the actual talk, and I'm very glad to introduce our first speaker, Henk Stipdonk, who is the director of the Netherlands Institute for Transport Policy Analysis. And I've been knowing Henk for, well, actually not that long, for about a year. But we're really kind of on the same way, our wavelengths. The understanding that communication between researchers and policymakers is very important, and actually the situation how it is now, it's not good enough. Much more improvements should be done. And that's why also it was my idea from the very beginning. Henk, you should be the very first speaker to open this series, because your message is extremely important. So Henk has a very impressive record of being a researcher. He works now, he leads the Institute of Transport Policy Analysis, but he also has been working as a research manager at the Institute for Scientific Road Safety Research, SWOF, in the Netherlands. He published a lot. He has been involved in many different projects outside the Netherlands. He has been working in Cambodia, Kenya, Ghana, Cameroon, other European countries. He is also very active in the ITF Institute. No, how do you call it? Transport Forum. I forgot what the abbreviation stands for, but it's also a very reputable organization working with transportation questions. And also he is co-chair of the panel at the European Transport Safety Council, I think, ITSC, yes. And he is also a very passionate promoter of the safe system approach to traffic safety. So, Henk, I hope I warmed up the audience for you, and now the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Alexei. I think you should stop. Yes, you should stop sharing your screen. Good afternoon, everybody. It's really a big honor to be here and be the first speaker in this process of presentations. Can you all see my screen? Just for a check. Is it visible now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, great. Yes, ITF stands for International Transport Forum. But I'll come to that later. It's a big honor for me to be here and talk with you, not to you, but with you, if it's up to me. I would like this session to be not just a one-way conversation, but if you can, in the second part of the presentation, please join me and respond if there's an opportunity. Let me quickly start with the next slides. The institute that I'm leading is part of the Ministry of Infrastructure, and we have made it a main topic to interact with policymakers, ask them what they need to know what to do, and then make sure that we do the research that helps them decide what to do. And this is something that doesn't come easy. You really have to work for that. What we're doing is we're doing research in traffic and transport, goods transport, and things as well, climate change. We do research in when it comes to rail or international navigation, aviation. Anything you can think of that has to do with traffic and transport is our subject of our studies. And as I said, what we are doing is zipping research and policy making. And this zipping is an active process. So the policy questions always are, what should I do? And in the case of road safety, there are road deaths and road injuries. What should I do to improve the situation? And then the research questions have to come up with the answer that helps the policymaker to know what to do. And we always ask him, what do you need to know what to do? So if we're talking about what we do in our institute is we just don't do research because we think this is interesting research. We always first talk to the policymaker and ask, what do you need to know what to do? And then we match the research program to their questions. And it sometimes happens that they say, well, we would be very much interested if you would do research on so-and-so. And then usually we do this, but we always first ask, okay, if you know the answer, what are you going to do with the result? And if they say, well, we don't know that yet, we come up with that later, we don't do the research. We really want this research of us to have impact on policy making and not just on beautiful research and writing PhDs and papers. One of the questions that is always asked is who should have priority when it comes to deciding what to research? Should it be policy managing research, or should it be research managing policy? Well, both are not true. I'm sure you understand that. Policy has to talk to research, but it should not be policy that decides what research should do, because if that happens, it may well be that research becomes dependent on the policymaker, and you always have to take care that in the end, the researcher has to decide what to research, not the policymaker. But the responsibility of the researcher is to make sure that his research is used by the policymaker, and that's not the same thing as asking the policymaker what you should research. You should ask him what he needs to know, and then you decide what to research. A very important distinction. If you have questions about that, please let me know now or at a later moment during the presentation. It has to go both ways. And this is something that doesn't happen just once. It's not that you talk with the policymaker and then you say something back and then you start researching. My experience is that you need to be in constant contact with the policymaker, and that's why this zipper comes into place. As you can see, the continuous interaction between policymaker and research looks something like a zipper. And this zipper picture is I think it's a nice picture because it shows that you need to be closely connected. You can't do effective research without being in the neighborhood of the policymaker all the time. Like if you're well, I'm wearing a vest like right now, but I don't know if you can see it, but if you have a vest with a zipper and you zip it on, it goes all the way up, and it connects both parts on the entire range, which is quite different from having a button connecting one part to the other and everything else far away from the button is loose. So I like this picture, and I hope that you understand what I mean by it. Yes, research or no research. Well, the policy questions regard what to do. Research is about what to know what to do. And the effective research is about what do you need to know and not about nice to know. And that it makes a big difference. There is so much research done by other universities all over the world that mostly leads to interesting papers that are not used by the policymakers to improve their work because it's too difficult for them or because it not just matches their question, And so nice to know for a researcher is not enough to make an impact on a policy. And it is always about today's needs. It's also about future needs, of course. But if you cannot translate the future needs to today's perspective of action for the policymaker, you're missing an opportunity. So that's actually what it is. You can look about future needs, but you have always to transform your research results to everyday, or actually today's needs for policy making. So yeah, research is indeed needed. You need inventorizations, you need to find policy options, and you need to estimate the consequences of alternatives for policy making. So this you can do regularly, but it's better, in my opinion, to take a closer look at what is actually needed today, specifically. And if you do that, you will find out that much of the research that you are asked for has already been done. There is so much, there is a massive amount of research results that are already there. And most of the questions that policymakers ask can be answered with knowledge of existing research. And so if you're looking for a way to write your PhD thesis on the original research, please do so. But also make some room for answering questions from policymakers with their today's needs, which is a different thing to do. But with your knowledge, you can help policymakers decide what to do. And at KIM, at my institute, we call this knowledge at the table. In Dutch, kennis aan tafel. And this knowledge at the table is for our institute taking about half of our time. About half the time we are explaining what we already know long after the research was done. And it helps policymakers a lot when you do this. So what does zipping research and policy look like? It starts at the beginning. You ask a policymaker what they are up to, what their options are, what they are busy with, what worries them, what makes them gain more esteem from the politicians. There's always politics involved when you're talking with policymakers. So there's always a subject that is more that there is more interest for than others, and you need to know about that to make your research work. And then, well, if you know what their what is making their clock ticking, then you decide, well, should I do research or do I have research readily available? What can I already do with what is known? And then you can spend some time on new research as well. But you have to match it. You have to match it with the questions. And this process is not a self-explaining process. And I have a nice example that everyone can understand. High-income country or low-income country or middle-income country, everyone can understand that. So let me show that to you in a minute. And don't forget that this zipping process goes all the way up. So it's not a matter of just one single conversation with the policymaker. It requires that you meet your policymaker, well, on a monthly basis or so. This is important. I have this example from my institute, and it's a nice example. We had a policy question: why don't people buy second-hand electric vehicles? Well, in our country, we have mostly gasoline and petrol cars, but we have some electric vehicles. This is an emerging market in the Netherlands and in the European countries. But people are not buying second-hand cars. And the question was, why don't they do that? Do they think electric vehicles are too expensive, or do buyers fear that the battery is already deteriorated? So we were asked to do a survey among people in our research panel. Why don't they buy second-hand vehicles? And what we did is we didn't do this research. we first took a look at, well, perhaps if you have been paying attention up to now, perhaps there's someone in the audience who has an idea why we didn't do this research. It's not an easy question, but perhaps someone has an idea. If you do, you can just make a sound. The first who makes a sound gets the floor. And if no one makes a sound, I'll just continue, of course. 5 seconds. Okay, fine. I'll explain to you. The reason is that because it's an emerging market, there are no second-hand electric vehicles in the Netherlands, or hardly any. We have a fleet of 9 million cars, and 7 out of those are, or 8 out of those 9 are petrol and gasoline cars. So we have a second-hand market of 7 million cars, out of which about 10,000 are electric vehicles. So there's absolutely no reason why you should research why people don't buy those cars. There aren't any. And we found that out, and that helped the State Secretary enormously to answer the questions of the Parliament. So it was a very useful research, but not because we did what we were asked. We did what we thought was necessary to do. So you do help, in the end, you do help the policymaker with solving the problem, but not with literally doing what they ask you to do. And there's another example, slightly different. It's from the ITF working group that I'm chairing. And it's about the question, how can high-income country specialists help people from Latin America or Asia or African countries that are less evolved in terms of road safety, application of the safe system in road safety. Because what we have been doing the last couple of decades is trying to, well, perhaps I'm exaggerating a bit, but trying to push our methods to the to low-income countries. Not everyone has done that, but this was a sort of general picture. So in this working group, we try to do it differently. What we try to do is have high-income country people talk to low-income income country or middle-income country project leaders and ask them what difficulties they have with implementing safe system principles. And that leads to some sort of a framework, a matrix with descriptions of what a safe system might look like in different stages of safe system development. The framework looks like this. So we have 6 pillars. The vertical lines are pillars. The well-known road safety pillars, I'm sure you all know them. And we have 5 key components for the safe system approach, which are on the horizontal rows. And in each cell, each intersection of those pillars and key components, we have described in 3 levels of implementation. So in an emerging or an advanced or in a mature stage, what the safe system implementation looks like. Hopefully, in the end, this will lead to something that can actually be used into practice. But we really found out with all of our conversations between the specialists from high-income countries and the practitioners from the pilot countries, like in, well, I can show you the pilot countries. They're over here. So there's Fiji, there's Bogota, there are countries in Africa, and some in Asia as well. And we are talking with the people who are carrying on their projects and trying to find ways to make our framework work. And we're trying to find out why it doesn't work, if it doesn't work. And really, this is also a continuous conversation. It's not just a matter of publishing your framework and then saying, well, goodbye, good luck, and now it's up to you. You need to remain in contact with each other. That up to now, that is my experience. So, yeah, the challenges are that the framework is not capable to cover situations where countries have absolutely no safe system implementation at all. And so going up the first step of the framework turned out to be already difficult. So what we're now going to do is try to describe how to make steps from one stage to another. And hopefully we are going to succeed there. If you are interested in the framework, it's published. We are still working on it, so there will be a next version by the end, by the summer of next year. You can find it on the website of ITF OECD, and the current report can be found on the website below.
Yeah. Henk, we can also provide the link to those reports on the webpage where we have registration. We will put the recording and we'll put the reports as well.
Excellent, Alexei. I would now like to move on to a more interactive part of the lecture. Alexei was so friendly to send me 10 abstracts of. Oh, there's a question from Conduelani. Do we have to go into that? Did you see it, Alexei?
Yes, I see it, but I would suggest we take like the general questions at the end of the talk, but Henk, continue now with the way you planned. Yeah.
Yeah,
but we will come back to the questions.
Yeah, okay. It's not an easy question. That's for sure. So what I did is I received some abstracts of papers written by some of you. I don't know if the authors are all there, but perhaps some are. So I took a look at these papers, and I was asking myself every time I read the abstract, can we imagine in some way that this research will be used in practice sometime? And then, well, more importantly, by whom can it be done? When and how? And it turns out that it is not so easy to answer those questions for some of the papers. And although I think these papers usually describe interesting research, I cannot always easily see how the research can help policymakers in making specific next steps in improving road safety. Even if you would hand out a paper to a policymaker and say, well, this is what we research. What do you think? What can you do? So that's what I would like to discuss with you, if you would like that. Let me see. Let me look at the first example. So there were two papers in this list about. No, that's not true. There was first the child pedestrian injuries in Ghana. There was one paper about that. I didn't write down the authors, but perhaps you recognize that it's your paper. And it was about understanding child pedestrian injuries. And the main findings were that it was mostly young children that are killed or injured. And the measure that was suggested was that parents should be more strict to the children and not allow them to walk unaccompanied. And if they don't, they should be fined in some way. So my question is, who is going to implement this measure? And I also have a more conceptual question. Your suggested measure, I was wondering if this measure comes from something that you have researched, or is this measure just an idea that you've got because you think it's an interesting direction to go? And that's important, because if it comes from research, it's much more powerful than it was just when it's just a suggestion. So I don't know if I'm just checking if is the author available?
Yes.
Let me see. It is James Damser or Jane Ezi Monka. Am I right? Or perhaps I'm wrong.
I think it was Kofi. Kofi, was it you who said it was yours?
Well, I did something similar to that. I don't know if this was from a published paper or from a workshop.
Yeah, okay. Well, I have in front of me Understanding Child Pedestrian Injuries in Ghana, Implications for Policies and Supervision Strategies.
Oh, that should be from the workshop. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I actually published a paper on that. Yeah. So.
Well, but now that you have the floor, perhaps you can say something about how research like this could help policymakers decide what to do. What do you think?
I think until recently, pedestrian fatalities have been the highest in Ghana. And so, for instance, me going into a study like this, what I decided to look at is just experiential knowledge of Ghana and how children move about with less supervision. So I wanted to look at the factors that contribute to the various injury severities so that policymakers who may read the paper would be able to prioritize the implementation of countermeasures.
Yeah, so the main impact of the paper is that policymakers become aware of the problem.
Right. Right.
Right. Yeah. Well, that could be quite a justification of doing the research. But then that would be interesting to know if it's possible to get into contact of those policymakers or politicians. So that would be your next challenge then. Do you agree?
Absolutely, yes. Yes, I agree with you. Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay, let's move on to the second slide with examples. That's about distracted walking, and another about motorcycle red light running. But first, distracted walking. And the main findings were that distracted walking concerns listening to music. So pedestrians are listening to music, or they're phoning, or they have conversations, and these are the most distractive things that they do while not paying attention. And these are then mostly males, unmarried, lower educated. And there I have the same question to the author who wrote this. Going to look up the name in a minute. So there again, how is this knowledge going to help prevent distracted walking? How is it going to help prevent crashes between motor vehicles and pedestrians? So let me see. It would be this would be from I think I've seen Mr. Sam in the audience. There's a Mr. Sam in the audience who I believe is the main author of this paper. Am I right?
Henk?
Sam Odame? Yeah. I heard you, but I don't hear you anymore. Enoch Sam, are you there?
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm here.
Yeah, okay. Could you say something about how your paper, how the main findings of your paper could help policymakers improving the safety of people walking in Ghana?
Yeah, so if we are linking this to the fact that people walk distracted, and I think this is also more related to the safe system approach. Yeah, so with that in mind, then it's more of, in terms of infrastructure, road infrastructure, and also other policies relating to drivers and some of the tests we do, we should have in mind that people are almost always going to be distracted, and then
Yes, that's right.
Yes. So once we know we are prone to make mistakes, then some of the infrastructure, particularly we put in place, should have that in mind so that we are able to help prevent some of these distraction-related crashes. Of course, it's a two-way affair. It's about the person getting distracted and also the person being at the wheels. Yeah, so basically we're looking at it, I mean, first and foremost, putting the information out there. This is what is happening. And with that knowledge, how do we move from here in terms of some of the policies, in terms of some of the practices we put in place, basically?
Yeah, so the interesting question is, if we know that people are distracted, but because this is what they do, they are walking and they're phoning and they have conversations, this is what they do. We're not going to stop them from doing that. This is a very natural thing. So when you know that, how can you advise the policymaker to take the right steps into improving the road safety? So my suggestion to you would be to, or my invitation would be to find someone, if there is, who would be interested in listening to you about this subject and your research results, and then together discuss the options for improving road safety, knowing that people walk and talk and listen to music. Regarding the time, I think I'll move on to the next slide. I have several more, but perhaps there's no time for that, because I'm sure you will also want to have some opportunity to ask questions. But perhaps the motorcycle red light running, there I see that that it's mostly at intersections that motorcyclists ignore the red light. Well, that's where they are, of course. And the result is that this red light running is believed to explain the high crash rates of motorcyclists. And there again, I have the same question. If we know that red light running is a problem, or we believe that it's a problem, that's not the same thing, by the way. How can it help policymakers? I don't know. Is the author of this paper, is he in the audience? It is. Let me see. Thomas Kolavolo Ojo, or one of his co-workers. Are you there?
Ojo is not here.
Okay, then we just move on to the next slide. So there we have traffic safety through car use restriction, and the suggested premise from this paper is that car use is bad news for road safety. I'm writing a care use, but I mean car use, of course. Car use restrictions are accepted by those who travel with others and those who have access to a car. Sorry about the mistakes in the wording. Are less likely not to use it. And my question there is, if people do not buy a car, what will then be the effect on safety? What I'm always fearing is that if people do not buy a car, they continue traveling on a motorcycle, which is even more dangerous. So my question there is, did you have that in mind? Or a more general question is, can policymakers make use of the results to enhance the safety in your country, knowing the results of your research? Let me see. This is Nigeria. This is Nigerian research from Fatai Yakin. Is he there or she?
No, he's not here.
Perhaps I should ask that first, because the next is on geospatial access to trauma care. Let me see who the author there is.
I think he's not here, so that should be James and Co. Yeah.
Manal, on trauma care, that would be Manal Yamale, but perhaps he's not there as well. Given the time, Alexei, what do you think? I can go to the last slide, but the question is still the same. So even if I do not discuss with you these papers, The question always is for each of you, if you do research, how can a policymaker make use of it to improve road safety? And are you going to make steps to make this happen? Because if you don't, no one does. Policymakers do not read scientific papers. So if you want them to have impact, you'll have to come up and bring those papers to them, or better even still, not bring the paper, but do the explanation orally. That would be my advice to you. And it's not easy, I know that, but it would be, well, a first step if you ask yourself, to whom should I go to? With whom should I talk? I think that's the main story. Let me see if there are, let's just go quickly through the summary and bullets. So it's a policymaker that makes the change, and that changes or improves the road safety, and what they need to know is to know what has to be done. And the researchers can help them decide what needs to be done to make sure that they know what needs to be done. And there, it's not the policymaker, but it's the researcher, in my belief, who has to take the lead, because the policymaker doesn't know what he or she doesn't know. But the researcher does know what can be known. So the researchers are far more advanced in knowledge and in reach to help policymakers decide what to do than the other way around. The policymakers are not always coming to you and ask you, can you help me decide what to do? Because they don't know you exist. They don't know that the knowledge you have can be of value for them. That's not always true, but that's something that I've found true more often than not. So that would be my advice. Researchers should take the lead. It's perhaps it's a sad thing to say, but that's my experience. And you need to be prepared for a high quality dialogue that really lasts quite some time. So that's about the bottom line of everything. You need to discuss, you need to find policy colleagues, you need to talk to them, and you need to ask them questions, and you really give a helping hand towards them. And well, I think that's about it. There's one more slide, I believe. No, there's not one more slide. This was the last slide. I thank you very much for your attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay, thank you very much, Henk. Maybe you can stop sharing so that we can see each other better. I would suggest those who have questions, please type your name in the chat so that I know in which order I should take you.
Yeah, I also see a hand raised. That's another option. I leave it to you to manage this.
Well, let's have one channel.
Yeah,
so
right.
Parisher, I see you, but please type yourself in the chat so that we have a queue there. So there was a first question, which I don't know if you really dare to answer, but why the first decade of action failed? It's $1 million question, and we'll take another lecture to answer, but do you have a short version of it?
Exactly what question? Please
so the first
the
decade of action on road safety, there were quite ambitious goals what should be reached during that decade, but we failed.
Well, goals are not enough. Goals are not enough. You need to put your money where your mouth is, or you need to put the actual effort where your mouth is. So you can't just make the number of people being killed on roads go down by declaring a decade of action. You have to do the action, and it is, well, in the Netherlands, it costs a lot of effort to really make a change. Well, we have been working on road safety for many decades, 5 or 6 decades now. And the safe system approach, well, I think we're about halfway, or the actual safe system approach. So well, I'm sure you know about the safe system approach. The essential part of it is people are stupid, they disobey the rules, and the punishment of, well, capital punishment for people who disobey the rules on the road is a bit too harsh. So can we protect, can the professionals that manage the road and the traffic system, can these professionals together, so the policemen and the road authorities and the government and the vehicle designers, can they together design a system in which traffic errors are no longer fatal? That means redesigning the roads, redesigning the way roads connect. So you need to make sure that if there are roads around a school where children cross the streets wherever they want, there you can't have high speeds. So and we have a multiple of cities all over the world, and especially in Africa, where we have 12-lane roads crossing through the middle of a city. And then on one side there's a school, and the children live on the other side of the road, and they have to cross the road. You cannot change that by saying, we have a decade of action, you should take care when you cross the road. You need to do something about you have to relocate the school perhaps, or you have to relocate the road. It's that difficult. And if you're not ready for that, you will have to cope with people being killed. You can take small steps, and you should do that. But so that's my view on why we didn't succeed.
Okay, good. I see two more questions coming here. Parisha, can you just say what you wanted to ask? You have microphone.
Yes, thank you very much, everyone. And I'm so happy to be actively here now. And with the start point, it is very nice to see all of you as well again. I talk with some of you in ICTC Congress as well. I'm writing at this moment the policies in Ghana for post-crash care, actually. It is a part of our project as well. And I read all of the articles in Ghana ICTC Congress. And it is really a very important point that I want to bring here, because you know, Henk, thank you very much really for your presentation. It was very nice to see you as well. And a big problem that we have actually, we have started to have interdisciplinary working together. And I enjoy it if I can work with the engineers and other sectors in traffic safety matters together. But the zipping, which you interested today, that I have appreciated, which is really very good idea. It needs as well another competences like traffic psychology. I could answer all of the questions that you answered today, because the lack of the science of behavior science, it is really a huge problem. And because of this matter, I want really to ask everyone here to help me by writing the policies in Ghana, because I am bringing the basic of psychology and behavior science, and I can say why punishment doesn't work at all. But as engineer in the traffic engineering, transportation engineering, I can understand that you have to learn it by yourself, or there are some courses in this case, and it isn't enough to make some strategies or write the policies as well. I need as well the help of transport engineers as well, especially with the data or geographical problems with post-crash care that was introduced in the Ghana Congress as well. I want to appreciate it if we can have a really work group here in this academy to produce really interesting works that it can help really the African people. Absolutely. The best practices examples like we have in Germany, Tagung, I don't know if you know about it or not. There are traffic psychologists sitting with the traffic lawyers together and traffic policymakers. And it is really a good joint point to change something. Just a recommendation, if we can have really workplace here in this academy together. Thank you.
Thank you for the suggestion. I think it's perhaps something for Ali Aksai to respond to, because it's about Ghana.
Yeah, well, it sounds like a lot of work to do, but Parisher, let's discuss how it can be done within, I mean, AfroSAFE and TransSafe projects, where we actually do have some funding to do the actual work. So please let's follow up that through mail after the webinar.
Yeah, yes, sure. Thank you. You know, I like to do something positive, and I'm favoring for it to work with all of you together. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I see we have one more question to Roelof.
Yes. Thank you. I think the discussion in the last half hour was very interesting, with the discussion of the different papers from Ghana. I also think it's the Safe System in Action publication. I've been following that, and I think it's an important work, that it will be interesting to see how it develops further. My question is, why is it difficult for countries from going from nothing to emerging safe systems, and what are the most important things they have to do when they start? I think this could also be the theme of a separate seminar, I guess.
Yes, thanks for the question. We are working on that, but well, there are situations where this is what people from countries, low or middle income countries, sometimes tell us. So they say, well, we are doing a project like improving vehicle safety using an NCAP method, where vehicles are going to have to be tested before they're allowed to the market. If a country starts doing that, they are improving road safety of passenger cars. Then if you start discussing about how to improve all the rest of the road safety system, for example, having driving licenses with quality, with people who do not just buy their driving license, but have an exam first, or have a training first and then be tested, or they have a theoretical exam, things like that. There are many countries where people simply buy their driving license. First they buy a motorcycle, and then when they have earned enough with a motorcycle, they buy their driving license, and then so on. Countries where the vehicle safety isn't regularly tested. If you talk with people about, and there are many more, look at our framework, look at all those cells, and there are many more components of a safe system than just the two that I mentioned. But for most of those components, you need a government, or you need a road authority that is interested in improving the safety, or you need a police force that is interested in improving road safety. If they are just not interested, if the policymakers are not interested, because traffic is a means of staying alive, then it is very difficult to make first steps. Once those first steps are there, that means there is someone up high interested in improving road safety. There's a governor, or a president, or a mayor of a city, or someone who has some impact, who is interested in cooperating with a researcher, or with other specialists, or with each other. If you have a mayor who says, well, I don't want people killed in my city, and I want to cooperate with school directors to improve the safety around the schools, then you can start somewhere. But if no one is interested, then it's very difficult. If you're on your own and doing a simple project, doing the safety of one street, for example, then you can improve the safety of your street, because the people who live there are interested in that. But it's very difficult to make next steps. If no one is listening, it's very difficult to make next. And one thing that you can do is raise awareness, for example. But we are working on what should you do if you are if everyone is turning your back on you.
So you're mainly pointing to pillar 1, road safety management and commitment. That's the thing where it all starts.
Yes, I think it starts with commitment, but because road safety improvement cannot do without cooperation. You always need cooperation between road authorities and policemen, and perhaps people who educate those professionals. And vehicle design is also important, and the design of the region or of street maps need some redesigning. You have to make sure that you can't have both on one road. You can't have a main high volume road and have children crossing the street at the same time. You really have to rethink your road, the map of the city then. And that's not a one-person thing. That also always needs cooperation and commitment. Yes, commitment is an important word. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. We have one more question, and I think that would be the last one for today. We are running out of time. So, Jacqueline, can you just say what you want to ask?
All right. Thank you, Henk, for your presentation. So I wanted to ask, like, how can we ensure we have, a continuous feedback loop between research findings and policy adjustments? Just from your experience, how can, being an established way of having that continuous loop to ensure road safety?
Thanks for the question. I don't know if you can ensure safety, but it's certainly a good idea to have this such a feedback loop between research and policy adjustments. It all starts with the regular dialogue between the research institute and the policy department. If you don't have this regular dialogue, it's even more important than the feedback loop. So for example, if a researcher has helped a policymaker explaining how, for example, policies in the direction of wearing bicycle helmets or motorcycle helmets is a good idea. So then motorcycle helmets are introduced. Then a year later, this is evaluated to see if indeed it has saved lives. But you can do that. And the researcher is keen enough to think about that. You don't need a system to make sure that this feedback loop is there. But what you do need is you need a policymaker who asks the question. So first he asks, what should I do? And then you come up with, you should introduce motorcycle helmets. They're being sold. And then it turns out, for example, if you've done the research, that it didn't really help because the motorcycle helmets were not qualitatively good enough. You do need this feedback loop to make sure that you're actually effective. And you also need to do more than just introduce the helmet. You need to make sure that the helmet is a safe one. But it starts with a policymaker that says after a year, would you research for me if my policy was effective or not? And the researcher should do the same thing. He should go to the policymakers and say, well, you did a good thing, but I think we should research the effectiveness of your measure. So we will have to compare the before and after situation. You need this dialogue. This dialogue is more important than no, the dialogue is not more important. The dialogue comes first. And when the dialogue is regular, then you can continuously discuss how you can further improve or how you can establish the effectiveness of your measure. That is my belief. Dialogue comes first always. I hope this helps you.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I see there is a discussion going on in the chat, but unfortunately we have to round up. but there would be more occasions to meet and talk. So thank you very much, Henk, for being the very first speaker opening this webinar series. It was very interesting, very relevant, and also I want to stress that it's not only the problem of African countries, that's also a problem of many European countries, that research is not really well communicated. It's written in a way which is not really comprehensible for policymakers, and there is not enough of the dialogue going on. We can see it in many, many other countries, including ours.
Yes, if I may add to this, it is a problem in almost all countries, and I could perhaps say in all countries, but sometimes not when it comes to road safety. Perhaps road safety is solved in our country, but then there are other subjects like environmental issues, for example, where there is no good connection between policymaking and research. So this disconnectedness of road safety, of policy and research, is everywhere.
Yeah. Okay. Well, once again, thank you very much. And thank you very much for the audience. As I promised, there would be a recording of this webinar available. So please share it with your colleagues or whoever could be interested in it. And also, I will provide the links to the report that Henk was mentioning. And I really hope to see you at our upcoming webinar. The next one is on, if I remember correctly, 8th or 10th of December. It will be about social media, how they can be used to collect relevant road safety data. So thank you very much for today, and have a nice weekend.
Thank you all, and same. Bye.
Bye.